Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, the cloud garden is beginning to look glorious, but it took a while for me to get it to that stage. So come along with me on a balcony garden spring clean. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I overcame my vine weevil situation. The garden was left in an absolute state after I had to go through every single one of my containers, and I'll show you what it took to put the garden back together again. Along the way, I've had to make some tough choices, and I also had to repot my 2.5 meter tall rose bush. So let's get straight into it. Hey guys, so the sun is out. It's a beautiful spring day. It's around about, I think, 15 degrees. It's feeling more like 20 up here at the moment. It's pretty warm. So I decided it would be a really great day to start doing some cleaning and tidying up. And let me tell you, I think it's best I just show you. Yeah, complete mess. So, if you remember rightly, my herb tower was there, and I did have a conifer tree that died over winter. And here's the herb tower now. So I'm going through all of these herbs now, just seeing what is still alive. And the real answer is, nothing is still alive. It's all kind of dried out to a crisp. The only thing that is still going are these chives. So we can see some new green growth underneath the chives. So this is still alive, but everything else, no. And I've chopped right down to the base to check. I've looked for new root growth. No, just nothing. Absolutely nothing. But it's fine, because that means I can start again. Well, in actual fact, I spoke too soon. So a couple of things are alive. So the annuals, things like basil, they're dead, they're gone. So I'm taking those out of that herb tower. But I do have a couple of things like thyme and oregano that seem somehow to still be alive. And let me show you how I can tell. As we get down towards the base, we can start to see that actually it's pretty green here. And although this looks dreadful, after a bit of chopping, we can see here at the base of the stem it's still green. What I need to do is just chop back the plant right down towards the base, and that should hopefully trigger it to start making some new growth. So I'm going to do that now. I worked my way throughout the whole herb tower and chopped everything back down to the base. I pretty much just hoped for the best. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that that portion of the container is facing outwards to the sun, so that once it gets a bit of that sunlight on it, it should then start to produce some brand new growth. So I'm going to take care of this broccoli today. I've had this for about 2 years, and it just keeps producing brand new growth everywhere. And I've just been using the seeds as microgreens, but now it just needs a little bit of shaping, so I'm going to sort that now. Normally I absolutely love pruning, but today was a little bit different. But as I trim away, I'm finding more and more aphids and whiteflies. And I know we discussed this before, but the spray bottle's in my hand. I think it's probably best if I just take them out now because otherwise they will infest the whole garden before I've even got started. I mean, we are still in February, so I'm gonna do it just this once, and then later on in the year, once it kind of warms up a little bit, probably around about April, I will begin to then introduce some mini beasts like some ladybird larvae. It's sad, but that's one of the issues balcony gardening, is you have to try and balance your own microclimate, and in this occasion, yeah, spray. Sorry guys. For me, using sprays are an absolute last resort. Not only will they unalive aphids, but it will also unalive beneficial insects. However, it's February and I'm 18 floors up, which means that my beneficial insects won't visit until round about May, which left me with this tough choice. So after the spray, we can then see just how infested this plant actually was. You can see all the way along the stems the aphids were just hiding in there. Remember, I did this container a while back and I had white lupins, I had black aquilegia and a bleeding heart, as well as the salvia and this repot here. But unfortunately, the lupins that were in the middle have been eaten by slugs. So have the aquilegia here and the bleeding heart, and this is how they got there on this plant next to it. So if we just zoom in, you can see the slug trail all the way over, and it would have climbed up onto there and got itself into this container. Now this particular plant is suffering with whitefly. So we've got tons of whitefly underneath this plant, under every single leaf, and so we can see just how damaged some of the leaves are from the discoloration. So I'm gonna get my spray this plant thoroughly and eradicate as much of the whitefly as I can, because once again they are just going to fly over to the next container and then they'll infect this one. So yeah, these guys have got to go. If this was later in the year, my choice would be completely different, but I've learned in previous years that if I don't act swiftly, these aphids and pests will take over the garden and I'll be fighting a losing battle. That was the last thing I did in the garden on that day. The next day I felt so guilty from the day before that I decided to concentrate on pruning and some tidying. I used the GoPro and I was just on autopilot. Does anyone do the same when you're out pruning or deadheading? As I was pruning, I came across this volunteer lettuce. I decided I was going to relocate it into this raised bed, and I decided to work my way all the way down the garden and find any more lettuce and put it all in here. This is one of my RHS Chelsea Flower Show garden containers. This is what it looked like in its prime. It was simply stunning. But due to a combination of poor watering, whiteflies, and a couple of other things, not much has survived. So I decided to empty out this container, but it did have a couple of survivors. The variegated ivy seemed to be doing well, and there was also what seemed to be a sweet William. Now, these here are my geraniums. I've had them for about 2 years, but you know, they've never done me wrong. But we had a frost that went down to -5 and it's just completely taken them out. Wow, I can just pull them. Lord knows what those volunteer seeds are. Oh, it's volunteer oh my gosh. It's just a fountain of volunteer seeds. Who knows what half the stuff is going to be. Let's have a look at this one. Oh wow. Yeah. completely just gone. Such a shame. Oh wow, not even any effort with this. The other one, again, this is the same. Got one here as well, that's the same, although it's tougher to pull out. So I'm going to get rid of this one as well. So down here I've got all of the infected leaves and some of the rotten plants, and I'm just going to throw this stuff away. I don't want it anywhere near my new stuff. And as you can see, that container, it's looking a little bit better now, but these two plants were too far gone, so I had to remove those perennials that are in there. The orange container is now looking a hell of a lot better, and the ivy I actually moved to this window box here, and then that looks awesome because further down the end of the garden you can see the long trailing ivy over there. So I think in the second box I need to get one more so they're all identical. So what I'm going to do is get another ivy for the second window box, and then all three of them will be identical. And then this mystery box is there for a little bit until I figure out what's going to go there. The fresh new herbs on the top have grown tremendously within the past few weeks. And here's a quick look at some of those volunteer lettuce and mustard that I found along the garden. Once again, they are doing fantastically well, and these were free. I cannot stand having to throw away plants, especially ones that you can eat. The more I tried to tidy this garden, I swear the worse it got. Does anyone else do the same thing? You do your best to try and tidy up, and yet somehow make even more of a mess than when you actually started. So here's just another reason to be careful when you're doing your sweeping and moving containers. This is a cocoon. I think it's from an angleshades moth. So I just found that as I was sweeping down there. So as per usual, I'm going to put this little dude in the bee house. So it will stay in there, and then I'll check on it every so often and see whether or not it's hatched. So here you can see my clematis from last year, and as you can see, no, home girl is a complete mess. So you would think that she is unalived, but if we go right down to here, you can see she's actually producing some new growth. And same goes for this stem. So this stem is completely done and dusted. But if we go right the way to the bottom, we can see that she is making some new growth here too. So what I'm going to do is just prune her back to this brand new growth here. And I'll do the same with this stem. And I'll prune her back to... And I'll do the same with this stem, and I'll prune her back to the node just before here. And even this... Oh yeah, look, she's got some more new growth right at the base of the stem. So yeah, I'm gonna go and do that now. going to need a little bit more compost because, as we can see, you know, the roots are bare, but the plant's not looking too bad. I'm out here with my bonnet this morning doing all of my garden work, but what I did want to show you was my rose bush. Now I'm just trying to see whether or not it's time for a repot, so let's have a look and see what's going on. You see it's starting to produce all of this new growth. So here's this container. Oh wow. Oh, so there's a whole ton of bugs in here. What the camera didn't pick up was there was a large colony of wood lice in there, and it seemed like they've excavated this hole in the container. Now the plant hasn't been very happy since it came back from the Chelsea Flower Show with me, and now I understand why. So I decided it was time for a repot. This rose is really important to me. It was one of the reasons why Auntie Liz stopped at my show garden to talk to me. Just look at the blooms. They brought such a smile to her face that I feel obligated to do everything I can to keep this plant alive. So today I'm going to be using some Plant Grow ready mixed natural rose fertilizer. I'm going to mix that in with some of my homemade compost, and then I'm also going to mulch it with that. Now this isn't a sponsored video. I do work with them. I am a champion for Plant Grow, but this video isn't sponsored. So let's get on with it. So we're going to open up some of this. Oh wow, okay. It looks great. Okay, so I'm going to just add some of this into the fertilizer. I'm going to add some of this into the compost. Mix it with my homemade compost. And then make a bit of a well. And then I've got to try and not spike myself on these lovely thorns and get this container into here. Child, let me tell you, the struggle was real. The number one issue with this was that the container with the rose was way too deep for any of the containers that I had. So it was a painstaking process of trying to scrape away at the soil and then condense it into this one container. I also had to collect up any of the bugs and then put them in a different container. Once I was happy with this container, I then started to weave the rosebush back into the arches. Okay, so now she's a little bit more tidied, and then we go down to the bottom, and there you go, much better. So I'm going to give this a bit of watering with some water from the fish pond, and then hopefully that will be enough to keep her settled for the rest of the year. Now, I don't want to give away too much, but I am going to give you a little sneak peek so you can see how the rose is doing now. As you can see, she has filled out nicely and she's absolutely storming. In the next garden update, I'm going to show you how I brought some of the life back into my containers. Hopefully, I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye!